Chapter 27. I was now, finally, totally convinced that I should become a preacher. Not only had my father and many other Christians pointed constantly in this direction, but in the depths of my heart I had always known that this was my path. Yes, I had been afraid of it, and had closed my ears and my heart to it, but now everything was so plain and so clear to me that I felt quite relieved and happy. I stood up, wiped the now no longer sorrowful tears from my face, embraced my fellow students, and called out confidently, "Brothers, I am going to preach the gospel on land, at sea, and in air, without reserve and with all my strength and all my time." Applause crackled around the room as they shared my joy. I had no further problems at college. I no longer learned mechanically, but with a firm goal in mind. Whenever I had a moment free from studying, I planned my future service. I saw myself among young people as I walked through the pedestrian zone of a big city and spoke to the people there about God. I saw myself in pulpits and in hospitals, preaching and having discussions with Chinese students, of whom there are many in Germany. But now came the big question of whether I could get a post. What would happen after my Bible school? At Baroa, we had many visits from foreign Christians, missionaries, and short-term workers from all over the world. Naturally, they would always ask us students where we wanted to serve. You could go anywhere from Baroa. A missionary who had known my family for a long time once visited us at the college. After the inevitable question as to what I would be doing, he laid his hand on my shoulder and said, "When you finish here, you should leave this dusty country." This remark troubled me for some days. By dusty country, he of course meant Germany. Should I go to Singapore and perhaps get to know a Chinese girl and marry her? Or should I go to England or America where the possibilities for missionary work were unlimited? Ought I to leave Germany? At first glance, much in the church here did seem dry and dusty. Countless congregations used a stale, rigid liturgy, and there was little living faith. People bickered over theological questions instead of developing strategies for mission and evangelism. Unfortunately, this is true. I have seen it for myself. But that is only half the truth. There are also many truly devout men and women in Germany who are marvelous examples of gospel work and selfless love of their neighbor. It was, after all, the community of believers in Germany that had saved my father and our whole family. I felt sorry for this dusty country. I realized that I had learned to love Germany. No, I wanted to stay here. I wanted to learn more from the Christians here and contribute to bringing the gospel to many more people in this country. But how? After finishing college, all the Bible students had to do a practical placement. I was invited to give a trial sermon in Geislingen in Baden-Württemberg. At lunch, the pastor asked me if I would like to do my training in Geislingen. To be honest, I wasn't sure. By Chinese standards, a town of 26,000 inhabitants is a mere village, and my desire was to work in a city with pedestrianized zones and students. But it was what God wanted for me. I stayed there for 2.5 years until I got my own congregation. But that is another story.